Hi, welcome to another episode of MYD Global YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking with Amanda, who's from New Bern, North Carolina, and we're going to talk specifically about a hurricane that happened here last year and get some of her thoughts and perspectives on what went well, what she learned, and so welcome today, Amanda, and tell us just a little bit about yourself. Your background.
My name's Amanda Ohlensehlen, and I am the Community and Economic Development Manager here for the City of New Bern in North Carolina, here in the United States. And personally, I've lived here in North Carolina since 2006, grew up in the Midwest. I'm married, and we actually have a new little 4-month-old son, our first one. And so I was pregnant when Hurricane Florence hit us last September. So today we'll be talking a little bit about that experience. I think I can share what we went through personally, and then professionally, what we've been doing post-storm.
That'd be great. Could you talk a little about, for those who didn't see the coverage, I mean, a lot of us did see it covered on CNN as it unfolded, but tell those who are watching just a little bit about what it was like that day.
Absolutely. So New Bern was on national and international media. In fact, I did not necessarily in my position have a role in the response for the hurricane. So my husband and I evacuated to the western part of North Carolina. So we were very much watching it unfold on television, the same way people all across the country were. We actually came back on Saturday or Sunday after the storm, so we were hoping to be able to travel back in before roads flooded, because that happens. People get cut off because floodwaters, were over roadways, major roadways, and here in eastern North Carolina, due to the types of roads, we're coastal, a lot of bridges, there aren't many ways to get back in if you are somehow cut off. So, it was important for us to get back to our home. We did know that it was flooded. Our residence was flooded due to rising floodwaters. We weren't necessarily on a waterway or things like that, which is the story for many of our residents here in New Bern and Craven County and throughout the region. So we wanted to get back to assess our property and also, start the process of cleaning up, mucking out, those floodwaters, throwing away, belongings and things like that to try to protect against, as many issues with mold. Many of our residents, it was weeks, if not months, before they actually got their homes mucked out. So a lot of people have dealt with mold and issues related to, their homes.
One of the things that I heard just walking around, and you've told me as we toured around, is how quickly the downtown was able to actually get reopened.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so obviously people's homes were impacted, people's businesses were impacted, their entire livelihoods here in New Bern and Craven County were kind of thrown, a curveball. The city urged people to evacuate, and I think, in other sessions you'll actually be able to speak with our fire chief and our public works director to kind of understand their perspective post-Florence, but there were a ton of water rescues that had to occur for people that did not leave their residences and had to be rescued by boat. That happened even in my own neighborhood. I know neighbors that had to evacuate in the middle of the night with just the clothes on their back. So we were very fortunate in New Bern that there was no loss of life. So it was a very successful initiative, to get everybody out safely. But we just did not expect for a storm of that magnitude and that level of destruction and flooding to hit New Bern. We had kind of been protected in the past, and I think people had heard before this is going to be the worst hurricane in history, and it hadn't happened. So in some ways I don't think people were necessarily as prepared as maybe they should have been, just to the nature of the type of storm and the situations and how it hit. But our businesses in downtown, you can probably go back and pull some of the footage. I mean, there were wakes and currents and floodwaters in our downtown streets. Some of the businesses did board up windows, but potentially, there was water intrusion through the roof or from floodwaters rising from the ground level. New Bern is right at the confluence of the Neuse and Trent rivers, so it's a very beautiful, picturesque downtown, very historic. Serving as the first capital in North Carolina. So Tryon Palace is a wonderful tourist destination, but it's very quaint. A lot of downtown shops and restaurants and retail stores and, various different services, such as attorneys and accountants that have office space in our downtown. The Craven County Convention Center is right on the water, right at the point of the confluence of those rivers, as well as a major hotels and things like that. So all of these businesses were impacted in some ways, some more than others, and this all happened in the middle of September, and our city staff in partnership with Swiss Bear Organization, which is a downtown revitalism nonprofit that operates in downtown, host a big, large festival in downtown New Bern called the Mum Festival every year, and that's the second week in October. So they actually were able to focus efforts and clean up in the downtown to be able to proceed with Mum Fest as planned. So people were putting debris that piled higher than your head, in many places, and that was cleaned up. The streets were clean. Businesses worked hard to try to get, their shops open back up in preparation for that event. The Swiss Bear actually allowed for any downtown businesses to have a booth free of charge at the festival, so to encourage, them to be able to get some cash flow going again, to maybe lessen a little bit of the impact. And that ended up being very successful. It was a way for people to kind of come together, the community to show their spirit and resiliency and being New Bern strong. And it also allowed people to come and shop and support the local economy, and especially those downtown merchants that were so heavily impacted.
And your convention center has been closed, right? They were impacted
severely.
Correct.
They were severely impacted. There were stories of floodwaters and snakes and alligators inside their walls, which is a crazy, crazy thing. But they are now working on construction. I believe that they've picked a contractor through their bidding process and will begin work. The hopes to open up in October of this year, which will be great because this has obviously impacted our tourism industry, group travel, and the hotel that is still shut down. That impacts the downtown merchants in particular, and residual effects throughout the local economy.
Yeah. Wow. So as far as one of the things you showed me when we were going around was this Volt Center. I thought that's an interesting, that's a result of some of this. Was that in the works before?
It was in the works prior to that. That's been in the works for several years, and the Volt Center is actually a renovation of the city's former utility warehouse and plant. From the 1940s. So the main building, which originally was an electric generation plant, is now a workforce development training center that is being leased and operated by Craven Community College. And so that is a workforce training center that is focusing on construction trades primarily. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago, our workforce development team here in New Bern and Craven County went around to the various different largest employers to kind of do a needs assessment. What are their needs? And I had identified several different programs that were needed to train people to fill jobs that were available. And those include HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, electrical wiring, construction. They're also doing some forklift training, as well as have a manufacturing pathway that's there to support, the companies that need to hire people. It also supports entrepreneurship because, there's a need for people to open plumbing businesses or HVAC businesses, for example. And this gives them the training to be able to go out and do that, to connect with a small business center through Craven Community College, to have the resources, to be successful.
That's awesome, because I think, what you find after a disaster is that workforce issue is something definitely have to address.
Absolutely.
And hopefully this really helps position you.
Absolutely. And there are other pieces to that as well. A kitchen incubator space, so that can support our hospitality and restaurant industry, to support tourism, to be a working lab for training to occur, to have more health and wellness programs in the community, communities surrounding it. In addition, there will be a makers lab to support entrepreneurial ideas, prototypes that people may want to make, and things like that, to get people in a collaborative space to test out their ideas, and then through support, maybe develop a business plan and connect them with what they may need to do, to manufacture that, to make the idea become a reality. So there are a lot of different initiatives that tie to the workforce and what the needs are and what the situation is specific to New Bern.
Do you think if a disaster were to happen tomorrow, you guys would have processes in place and be better off than a year ago? Like, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been, a huge learning opportunity for our staff here with the City of New Bern, our leadership on, from higher staff levels and our elected body, is really directing us to become more resilient. So as staff and personally been really working on what can we do to establish a resiliency plan in the future, specific to New Bern, that would be separate from planning that occurs at even the state or county level. We could identify opportunities and challenges and projects for mitigation in various different community subsets within New Bern, and have kind of a broader actions toward becoming more resilient in the future. So that is a very large initiative that we're working on. So should this happen again, which hopefully it won't, but if it does, we'll be better prepared, and we'll learn from what's happened now to be better in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and is there anything else you want to mention or feel like you didn't get a chance to say, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in general, for my level as staff, it's trying to figure out what resources are out there to help individual residents and to help businesses. So, we're really a way, I see my role as connecting the dots to help people get the help they need. So a lot of programs as community and economic development manager kind of funnel through this office. We get a lot of inquiries from people on the residential side where, the one organizing the hazard mitigation grant program, which is a federal program where we apply to the state on behalf of individual residents that may want elevation or buyout of their properties. And then also on the business side, helping recommend places for people to go to get capital or cover cash flow issues or get loans to make sure that they can stay in business longer. So, I think that we've had a lot of really great success stories. And in a lot of ways, my job, I'm here to say we're open for business. We've had a lot of commercial and retail establishments that have opened since the hurricane. But we also have a very long road to recovery as well. So there are still people that are displaced from their home. There are still businesses that are searching for a new place to locate as well. So the needs are still very, very high. So it's balancing kind of that business as usual with the long-term recovery and mitigation efforts to be, better prepared.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best in your recovery, and I know that for those of you who might be looking for a place to visit in the near future, to come and visit, I'm sure the local businesses would appreciate your visit. The tourism opportunities here. It's a beautiful community. It's very welcoming. They are able to take people and host you here now. So, and I think when the convention center opens, there will be a new blood and new tourists coming here. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And I will say, our New Bern is a wonderful place to visit. A beautiful place. A lot of outdoor activities. There's shopping, retail, a lot of great history. So many of our hotels are still open. Please come support us. And you can probably hyperlink our city website and my contact information. Yeah. Please feel free to reach out. We know how to do Southern hospitality here in New Bern. We have over 300 years of Southern hospitality. So we welcome anyone to please visit and learn more about us.
That's awesome. And I will provide in the description area Amanda's contact information, information on the city, and how you can come and visit here. So thank you very much for taking the time today. And for those of you who want more information on disasters, please subscribe and learn more information. And we'll have a couple other videos related to New Bern from different angles. But really, it is a great story, and one where they have new opportunities to seize as a result. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.